Thanks. So welcome to our second public show and tell for the Open Referral UK beta. The aim is to update you with our progress so far and hear your thoughts and feedback on it. We've got a lot that we'd like to share with you. We're going to look at, we'll introduce you or reintroduce you in the case of some of you to the project vision and plan, and we'll share the work that we've been doing on the website with you. And then we will somewhat cheekily try and take advantage of your presence to briefly discuss the ways that you could see yourself being involved with the community around the standard. We'll also look at the developing thinking around the governance and the roadmap to business as usual. Apologies for the noises off. My cat is playing and being naughty. We'll look at the communications that we've been doing around the project and hope that we have plenty of time built in for discussion and questions. Before we jump in, I'll just give a brief introduction to the organizations doing the work, which are Snook and Pourism. Snook is a research, design, and digital agency that works predominantly in the public and third sectors. And in 2019, we conducted discovery work around open community. Now we're working on this beta with our partner Pourism. I'll pass over to Mike quickly to introduce Pourism.
Yeah, as many of you know, Pourism is an SME with a long history of helping local government share and use data, particularly open data according to open standards. Amongst other things, we're partners with the Local Government Association and run the LG Inform Plus suite of tools, which makes a couple of billion open data items available for access through APIs and their tools.
Cool. So I'm Niall. I'm going to introduce very quickly everyone who's not familiar with the team, just two of the people on the team. So yeah, we've heard from Mike so far from Pourism. Yeah, they're the kind of SME partners that we're working with on this. Dom's also a software developer at Pourism, as am I, but I'm a software developer on the Snook side, along with Yemi, who's our great tech lead, and Andy, who's actually leaving the project quite soon because he's got another role to go to. But for now, that's kind of the core team that we have. Also on the Snook side, we've got Elsa kind of leading up the project stuff. Harry's doing a lot of delivery management stuff and keeping us in check. Gavin, that you've heard from so far, is the head of service design at Snook and is doing a power of work just now on that stuff. Ananda and Chia are both working on the, I don't know if Chia's on this slide yet, but yeah, Ananda and Chia are both doing some interaction design stuff for the project. Robin's doing a load of comms for the project. Anne is doing a lot of content for us just now, and Olu is done a really good job on the user research stuff. It's doing a lot of recruitment so far. So if you're interested in getting involved, maybe he's someone you could talk to. We're also working with like a bunch of partners in this project. So there's obviously a bunch of people from different local governments. So from Asner and Worthing, our main point of contact has been Paul Brewer. From Leeds, we've been in contact with Nick Parker. From Essex, we've got Ben Unsworth, who's been involved with this project and iterations of this project for a good while. And from Sedgemoor, Paul Davidson's been a really good help from that side of things. There's also Chris Thorpe, who's involved from CAST, and that's they're kind of like aligning with a lot of the kind of tech for good type stuff that CAST have been doing. Yeah, on the kind of more local government centralized side, we've also got the Ministry of Housing and Communities and Local Governments. Matt Woodhill has been a main contact there, and from the Local Government Association, we've had Tim Adams.
Okay, so I'm just going to say a few words about what Open Referral UK is. Apologies for those of you that have already heard this. We got quite a few new people booked on this show and tell, so we'll just run through the basics quickly before we get into the detail. Basically, Open Referrals are standard for to provide a consistent way of recording and sharing information about services. So by services, we mean human services, things like care at home, bike maintenance, meditation, women's support groups. Often the kind of things which a local authority might want to pass people to as an alternative to them drawing on funded public services. And similarly, the NHS might want to through social prescribing. The standard looks at how we can share information for reuse rather than have multiple copies of it, and how information can be structured such that whoever's reading it, they have a common and easy understanding of what it looks like and where they find relevant bits of information. We need a common standard because at present we have a myriad of different directories with overlapping content across councils, the voluntary sector, charities, etc. I think I came across one council which had got 11 different service directories and nobody quite trusted anybody else's, so they all kept their own copies. Another council which manually rekeyed all its services from a directory into a CRM system for social prescribing because it didn't have a machine readable interface. So these are the kind of problems we're attempting to resolve, such that we end up with one reliable copy of data. Effort isn't wasted, and that enables us to find the right services to address user needs, going beyond a standard Google search, but looking at things like, are you eligible for a service? What's the cost? What's the target group? What's the accessibility, etc. So if this standard is well adopted, we should be able to bring together multiple people's directories from different sources in a common format for use by multiple applications. Typically, say if you live on the border of two councils, you might have to go two places at the moment for a service directory, or maybe a lot more than two. We want to get the data open such that the likes of innovators can take it and do interesting things with it, rather than rely just on the people who look after a service directory being the only people who publish it in service finder applications. So there are goals, and we're not starting from scratch. If we look at where we are in the timeline, on the next slide, please, we go right back to 2014 when the Open Referral standard was founded in the US. And there's a good bit of real life work and case studies based on that standard internationally. And in 2017, the LGA did work with a simpler standard for exchanging data in Lancashire and North Yorks. And Snook's discovery work, which happened from the MHCLG local digital project in 2019, did a review of the needs for service directories and what existed, looking at Open Referral and the LGA work. And as a result of that, the LGA picked up their findings and extended Open Referral into what's now known as Open Referral UK to meet specific UK requirements. And that was piloted in a DCMS funded project specifically to look at services which help address loneliness in Blackburn with Darwen, Elmbridge and Hull councils, and Bristol joined in and did similar things. And then back to Open Community, that work was picked up by Buckinghamshire, who did some alpha work, and FutureGov implemented a service directory from them. So we have, as of the start of this Open Community beta project, suppliers like PlaceCube, FutureGov and Public Sector Consulting implementing the standard. We have people like Vidavia and Doc&T using it for their service finders. And we have people like WellAware who are familiar with gathering service data according to high quality standards. And this project is bringing all of that together to make it easier for new entrants to onboard the standard and provide us with a means of maintaining it from here on in. And hopefully we'll see next some draft pages which will illustrate how we're going to do that.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Harry. I'm a delivery manager at Snook, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the vision and the plan that we have. So all those things Mike talked about, kind of how we're going to tackle those goals. We have created almost three columns of work. So we've got a compelling digital presence and some form of easy onboarding. So that's it's making sure our audience are aware of what open referral is, kind of understand what the benefits are, and then actually kind of going ahead to actually adopt those. There's also a program of engagement as well. So not just kind of the understanding of what open referral is, but actually engaging with our audience and kind of sharing information about what it is and trying to get the buy-in as well, not just from the top up, but from kind of not just from those senior leaders, but also from like those that actually carry out the work as well, and like developers and people from those teams. And another column we have in order to make this what we feel is to make this work a success is some form of strong governance structure as well, but something that is easy to maintain, easy to adopt as well. So that's something that we're also working on. And then on the next slide, I'll just give a quick update on where we are in the project. So we're past halfway now. So we're where that red line is. So we're at the end of sprint 4. So we have this is our second show and tell. We'll have another show and tell at the end of sprint 5, and then another end of sprint 6. So we are getting deep into the midst of testing and also building the software as well. And then we're going through several rounds of building something, and then going to our audience, going to users, getting some feedback, and then iterating our development based on that. So that's where we are on that. And there's various comms that are happening as well, part of our kind of comm strategy. And then there's governance workshops as well taking place. And then although this project ends at the end of April, we are looking at what we can be doing to support this going forwards as well. So those discussions are happening, and we'll make sure that we bring the outputs of those into this meeting, into the show and tell as well. Next, Olu's just going to talk a bit about the website and what we've learned so far.
Thank you very much, Harry. My name is Olu. I'm the user researcher on this project. So far, we have been putting the website through some usability test sessions with mostly people who work within the public sector or connected to a local authority or one of the service providers. So far we have spoken to 3 people. There's another session coming up today with a couple, like I think 3 more lined up for next week. We've spoken to someone who works with Leeds at City Council, someone from Rural Design Center who works as a design associate. I think they work in a provider capacity as well, and someone from the NHS. Next slide, please. So these are the user feedbacks that kind of overlapped with all the 3 users we've spoken to, and we've run through the usability test session. Generally speaking, they rate the website highly because they were able to go straight to whatever information they're looking for, no distractions, and it's quite factual. So most of the users, most importantly, are particular about seeing case studies. They want to learn about other people's experience who have gone on the adoption journey, whatever challenges they have experienced on the journeys, and also understanding the benefits as well. Also, one thing popped out during the sessions, we realized that we've got 2 headers on the homepage. One is for about, which talks about what Open Referral UK is, and the other one is about who is behind Open Referral UK. So we find that users are confusing the 2. So we've taken that on board, and I'm pretty sure Anne, who is the content designer, as well as Ananda, who's the interaction designer, would work on that and sort that out. Most, participants, they said they would use the website very often, and they recommend other people using it. And if you move to the right side of the slide, we've got 2 user quotes there. I think the most interesting one to me is, the first one, which says, "It's just a clarity, making it easy. I'm here to find out stuff, and it's easy for me to do that. Nothing got in my way or distracted me. I didn't feel like I'm being sold to, as I don't like feeling like I'm being sold to." So it's very factual and clear on what it does. The second one, it's quite straightforward, pretty much. And yeah, pretty much just said, we've done a good job so far. So this is kind of an evidence that we're moving in the right direction. We're going to continue testing the website for content, as well as the information architecture over the next couple of sprints. So yeah. Also, we need some help. One of the major challenges with these user testing sessions is that we're struggling to get participants, to get people to commit 45 minutes of the time for the usability test sessions. And we thought of recruiting to mitigate that risk, but it's quite apparent that we're not going to hit the right audience with that, or get the right, the feedback from that wouldn't be as valuable as possible. So we're just going to please beg you to please spread the word. We've got a message that I can share with anyone who's interested or who is able to help us in spreading the news and getting us some participants for these ability test sessions. So yeah, so that's it from the website testing perspective. Thank you.
Okay, I can pick up from here. So yeah, the website has been getting tested, has been like in a kind of like prototype type phase. So as a software developer and as part of this team, I've been kind of like working on building that into something which is like not just functional, but like maybe more importantly at this stage, it's going to be like maintainable, and it's something that can live on like beyond whenever like our involvement with this project is over and done with. So we've been like interfacing quite a lot with like things like like building out a CMS system and making sure that things are going to work.
Hi Wendy, how you doing?
Oh, sorry, Henry, I think you're not on mute. Could you please mute yourself on this call? Thank you. Okay, so I can share my screen just now if that's okay. And I'll show you kind of what we're up to just now. All right, so basically we're working from like a kind of wireframe prototype just now. The visual design isn't really there with what we wanted to do, like in terms of like we've not implemented like much visual design yet. And we also haven't implemented that much of the content yet. But what we have done is we've built a fairly solid framework, which is going to like, we've got something which is deploying to AWS just now, and we're able to kind of like, iterate on that and get things working. Our pipeline's looking pretty good. Yeah, so all this content this is just running on my local host just now, but it's all getting served from what's a live CMS just now. So this kind of stuff should be pretty easy to maintain, and we're able to, edit the way that things look and the way that things are going to come together. Yeah, as I say, I don't have a great amount to show just now, but I guess it's more just to show that like we're moving towards where we're getting to, and we're going to be able just to iterate on this stuff. And as feedback comes back from user research, hopefully we'll manage to bring some things together. Yeah, I think that's kind of all I've got just now. Just that we're in a good place to iterate, but we're still quite early stages in terms of the actual finished functionality or finished design.
Actually, I guess I just started presenting, but I guess it's over to you, right, Ananda? I'm going to give you the screen.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. So we wanted to just quickly show the wireframes that we've been testing with people, and just to give an idea of kind of where they're at. So let me share my screen. So these are the kind of working wireframes we're looking at the moment. And you can see here, we've got a bit of a mock-up of the home page with some of the elements on there that we feel are important. And this is what we've been getting feedback on. And these wireframes are really useful for us for exploring the kind of overall navigation and how that's working, and how the sections all work together. And we're also testing the initial content drafts and our kind of plans for the content. So we can see in various sections that we have some initial content that we've been testing. And on a high level, the content, our focus is around explaining kind of what, why, and how you would use or get involved with Open Referral UK, and explaining that to a non-technical audience. So that's kind of the key thing that we're testing with this, and the direction that we're going. And we're also, with the wireframes, testing some and kind of exploring some key features. One around this idea of a community and how we could surface this on the site and how that would work as you come through. So for people coming here, they get to have a view of who is in this community and who might I be able to reach out to for support, and just get that level of kind of trust that there are these organizations out there already implementing this. So we're thinking about how, at the moment, how users who land on the website could then kind of sign up to various levels of involvement with this. So these are the wireframes from about 2 weeks ago, and we're working on new versions right now. And we're also looking at the case studies and how these can be formatted a bit nicer. But that's pretty much the wireframes. And then I wanted to also, I'll stop sharing now, and if we go back to the slides, give a little bit of a view on the visual side of things, which is working in the background as well. So that's just on the next few slides. So yeah, starting off with some of the kind of visual components. So what we're hoping to create is a fairly lightweight style guide, so that it's easy to then hand over to the kind of governance people that will be taking this forwards once Snook's not involved anymore. So yeah, part of that is creating a color palette that's leaning on the Open Referral international brand, but extending that with more colors that are accessible as well, to make sure that, you know, accessibility is built into the website design. If you move forwards, we're also kind of nailing down the typography, and again, the key thing here is legibility, really, and making sure that the text styles have a good kind of visual hierarchy. And if you move forwards once more, another element of this is the components that we're bringing together, and once again making sure that these elements are accessible. And then we're kind of working with all these different parts to then bring together into an actual design. So on the next screen, we've got a bit of an idea of how this might all start coming together, and you can see kind of the general visual direction that we're going. And we're hoping to quite soon be able to kind of merge this with the wireframe, so we have a bit more of a fleshed out vision for how this is going to look for our user testing moving forwards. So I think that's about me. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Chia, and I'm another interaction designer here. And in this section, we're going to ask a few questions about how everyone would like to engage with Open Referral community. And you can use like message feature to tell us your thoughts, or you can open your mic to share with us. So next slide. So the first question will be, what question or what need would you have for Open Referral UK for community? You can type it down, or you can like unmute yourself to tell us directly. Both are fine. Like what kind of thing, potential need you might need to, maybe you would like to have like support from the peer, this kind of feature for the community. Okay, so I have one like, how do I get started, from Paul. So something like a starter kit or like a step-by-step guide. Does anyone have any need about from the community? Okay, I can speak.
Looks like Emmanuel, you have your hand up. Do you want to go ahead and speak?
Yeah, I can. Well, it's great to see some development taking place. I am aligned to the Data Standards Authority in the Government Digital Service, and we're very keen to look at open standards, generally speaking, but with a particular interest in the open referral one. And so I've got a couple of questions, but I'm conscious that I don't want to monopolize the conversation. Just looking at the snapshot that you provided of the website, I was wondering whether you were considering perhaps wrapping around case studies around particular personas or themes, which would direct your audience to content that perhaps might be more relevant for them within a particular context, and that might be tackling a particular aspect of referral, for example, around the vulnerability or other theme. The other is coming back to your comment on the fact that you're struggling to get people participating in user research. And I was wondering whether you have a clear indication of who is your audience, from social workers, other frontline staff, to perhaps even including teachers and people in the education system, who often will have a need to refer people to social services, for example, in their local authority. So just wondered whether you could cover those two. So persona-based type navigation and your audience, your target audience.
Thanks, Anu. I think it's quite. Oh, Elsa, please go on.
I can. So I know that Anne, our content designer, is. Well, actually, Robin, do you want to speak for the case study question? Because I could probably answer the other one, or I can do both, whatever you prefer.
Sorry, I was typing notes trying to capture that. If you could lead on that, and then I'll maybe chime in if I have extra. Yeah, for case studies, we've broken it down into, I think it's 3 at the moment, although we don't actually have a case study for each. So we're looking at it, or the way we're looking at it for now, but very open to feedback, is roles based. So one is kind of more, the first case study we have is from Nick. I'm not sure he's on the call. He's a digital program manager at Leeds. So more of the how from the local authority implementation perspective, that journey. The other that we're looking for is for someone working on the community services side, so service commissioner or link worker, something like that. And then ideally also an end user, but we'll have to go through those channels to get an end user case study. But those are the 3 that we were looking at the moment. Hadn't really thought about teachers. That's kind of an interesting one. Maybe could you elaborate a little more?
Yeah, happy to, and I can do this offline as well.
Yeah.
Teachers are very often aware, just by the circumstances of their work, of potential vulnerability, whether it's the students or the parents themselves or the entire family. And as a consequence of their engagement with parents and their local community, they may refer people to their local authority social services. So I think the ability to be able to have a workflow that is supported by a standard to share where applicable that information, so that the local authority can follow up on it, would potentially be one scenario that you could explore.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see if we can find, I don't know if we have any teachers who have used, well, we'd have to find out through the directories that are currently compliant if we have any teachers or other end use cases we can talk about, but I like that a lot. For your second question, I'm trying to remember what it was. Can you remember what it was about?
This was, which audience are you particularly trying to target? And again, was a persona or role-based type navigation might cover that. I think in terms of your user research specifically to inform your work, who are you actually trying to reach out to?
Yeah, so our target audience for the website is at like a couple of levels, but it's mostly sort of service commissioners and those working in social care in local authorities, but also the kind of digital transformation side of like looking at the work as well. I think those two are both really important. And then of course, service directory providers, that's kind of like managerial level position that would decide to fund that work. In terms of the routes that we've taken for recruitment, it's mostly through our partners that you saw on one of the initial slides. So through Paul Brewer, Ben Unsworth, others that I know are on this call, and Matt Woodhill has also helped us using some of the local digital channels. So it's really via the councils we've been working with, and then also, I mean, any other channel that we can find at this point, to be honest. It's sort of that trade-off between being really specific about what roles you're looking for, which might help because then it appeals directly to them, but also it might eliminate others, such as yourself. I know you're talking to us this afternoon. So yeah, but do you have any suggestions for recruitment, or anyone else on the call as well? We'd love to know your thoughts. And thanks everyone in the chat that's sharing their thoughts. Those would be really great to get back to later.
Shall we move to the second question?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Thanks, Gia.
So the second one is like, what way or which kind of channel you would like to interact with Open Referral UK community? Like, what kind of way maybe is more accessible for you, or you think is more like inclusive for everyone? And feel free to like open your mic or raise your hand to have a chat as well, or message here. If not, we can move on to the third one because I think it's a relevant question. Okay, so actually we list down a few ways. Okay, yeah, I think like Gary mentioned Slack, so you can choose like which one, the top 3 way you want to engage with the community. Like for example, community forum like Slack, or support from email. And third one is like able to speak someone else who maybe already adapted or already using this standard. 4 is a drop-in support core, 5 social media, and maybe other options. Can type it down, let us know. Like I think a chit chat from Twitter is a good idea as well. Okay, from Slack. And GitHub, I think it's already have like the platform there. Okay. I think there's a few options here, and because I'm aware about time, so feel free to keep type down what you're thinking, which way is preferable, and I'm going to head over to the next section.
Thanks, Chi. Yeah, you'll remember the third pillar that Harry described was governance, and what we're looking at here is how we change from what has been a series of projects into an ongoing program, so people have confidence that the standard it has longevity, will be supported, and is worth investing in. So we've looked at 2 things. We've looked at a governance structure. We can move on to the next slide, and we've looked at how we get to that. So there's a document link there, and we will be sharing this afterwards. By all means, follow it. And it's a Google document which you can comment on, and we would welcome those comments. If you want edit rights to actually go in and add bits, let me know. We're basically seeing a relatively lightweight structure whereby there's a board of high-level representatives that just make sure that the standard is kept on course and within the bounds of its original objectives, and looks after any funding side, particularly as we see as a cross-sector thing. So it's of interest to local governments, to the voluntary sector, to health, to education, which Emmanuel has mentioned, and I know that some service directories are required to meet certain standards by Ofsted for special educational needs. So we need representatives of those sectors to make sure that their interests are represented. But beneath that, supporting that, operational and technical groups. And operational we see as basically people who have implemented or are setting about implementing the standard. And that group will change over time, but hopefully form a body of people that can refer to their peers to get experience of how they've implemented the standard, and can report back any issues where they think it's not meeting requirements. And we'd hope those issues will be picked up by a technical group. I know that Gary's said in chat, he's been asking about how you submit changes. And we do see that there's a technical group largely of developers from suppliers and public sector people who look after the nuts and bolts of the standard and, as it were, take ownership of it and make sure it's fit for purpose, and feed into periodic version control, version changes, which hopefully will be all backwards compatible. That bottom row shows what might be commercially commissioned, but hopefully very lightweight services in support of the above. So a bit on the admin and the comms side. Moderation to bring together those various communications channels. And it's interesting that different people use different channels, like the techies talk about GitHub, people talk about Slack, others prefer email. We need a way of bringing those together because often they're a mixture of technical and non-technical issues that are raised. And if there is an online forum, it needs a degree of moderation and stimulation to point people to appropriate messages to resolve their problems. So a bit of work there. And then periodically there's a task such as one performed for Open Referral International, where somebody collates all the requested changes and puts together a proposed version upgrade for approval by the technical group. So there's some basic work that needs to be done on that bottom level, although we'd see that the top two being volunteers and people with an interest in seeing the standard work for their own sectors. So that's a lightweight structure, and the document goes into the principles according to which they would work, how the thing might be organized, and what the funding might be. And then if we move on to the next slide, this is all about how we get there from where we are now. So as of May, we will have a site which should have all the resources to help you onboard the standard, and we'll have communication channels in place for people to consult. And those things along the bottom of this slide describe ongoing tasks that are needed to keep that ticking over, to update content, to keep the communications going out, because the workshop we had on governance talked very much over winning the hearts and minds of people and helping them understand the standard and that it's taking hold and the advantages it brings. So we've a basic degree of ongoing support that's needed. And then above that in the picture, we've got some one-off tasks that need to be performed in the short, medium and long term. In the short term, we probably think that some of the earlier adopters will need a bit more hand-holding, and we'll be able to collate some useful case studies from them. And also we'll go through a standards board approval, and Emmanuel's on the call, hopefully will help us with that, and liaise with key stakeholders to get those processes in place. Then in the medium term, I think we're expecting to get a degree of traction in the local government arena, perhaps with a version change to address some of the feedback we're getting from suppliers at the moment. And if we get a weight of numbers adopting the standard in local government, that gives us the strength and the confidence to go out to the health sector. And health are particularly interested in the standard for social prescribing. and maybe a good source of funding for some of the infrastructure. So longer term, we'd see involving them, and indeed aligning with other standards which are relevant, such as taxonomies and standards like the Savvy standard, which is another local digital funded standard. That we probably consider those beyond the reach of Open Referral UK, but we hope that reach will extend, and that this structure might be appropriate for other standards after that. So would welcome lots of feedback on this, both within the document and, if you prefer, by email, or if necessary, by verbal chats. Thank you.
Hello, I am the comms and engagement specialist on this project. So I'll keep it short and sweet as I'm conscious of time, but we have some exciting things to update you on. So on the next slide, we've got an example over on the right. We're working on a communications and engagement pack, and this will include things like our target audiences, which is great. You've already given us more to go and look into and add to that. Then methods for engagement, as it's really key to keep conversations between target audiences, as well as methods of communication. So keeping that going and more or less outward comms. And then our newsletter template, the case study form, additional templates, and a style guide in line with the website style guide to make sure that it's consistent across the brand. We've also this week published our first OR UK newsletter, which we're really pleased about. There was a lot of back and forth and discussion over this to get it to a place where we were really happy with, and we're yet to have a look at the insights and see how that was received. But yep, there's a little example for you. And then on the next slide, we can showcase our first case study draft. So we've still got some design things to confirm and sort of the style and make sure that we're happy for it to be public facing. But our first one is with Leeds City Council. And I know we've reached out to quite a few others that have already adopted the standard to hear about their experiences, and their input's really important as it's helping us make sure we're capturing the right information and the right journey that people want to hear about. So that's been really interesting. Some of the key stuff we've discussed in there are problems that local authorities had before the data standard, what the challenges and the process were when they were adopting the standard. Most importantly, the benefits of adopting the standard. I think that's a key thing people will look for. And then the impact it's had on organisations and what the adopter learned throughout this entire process. And yeah, these are all just really useful. They will long-term be on the website when the website's up and running. For now, we've created a Medium account for Open Referral UK, and we're going to be trialing how that looks and feels and will be received on there. So I will keep that short for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we can try and answer them. But for now, I will pass it back over to Elsa.
Thanks, Robin. And yeah, one thing we would love is if you have adopted the standard and we haven't reached out to you yet, please do reach out to us if you would like to submit a case study. I'll just put my email address in the chat. I think I have a slide on that later anyway. But we've talked a lot. Just to recap, we've shown you insights from the testing of the website, a little demo of the website and the designs. We've talked about governance and comms and some interesting conversations about target audience and recruitment and yeah, the target audience for the website. But we would love to just hear more from you. Like, what do you think of what you've heard so far? Do you have any questions for us or for other people on this call? What would you like to talk about for all things Open Referral UK? And yeah, a good point from Emmanuel about which local authorities are at various stages of adoption. Thinking about it, are doing it have done it. That's definitely something Ananda has been working on already for designs, and we see as a really crucial part of increasing trust. So yeah, thanks for that. Anyone else questions for us? We've shown a lot of stuff. Love to get feedback.
I think it looks great. Just quickly, I just wanted to say I think it's really comprehensive what you pulled together here, and I think I can't think of anything base that isn't covered, so that's great. I think really just keen to keep in touch and keep seeing these show and tells as you go. I mean, as you say, it's quite difficult getting these things through the machine, as it were, and I guess like there's enough thought given to what that's going to look like and how you're going to drive that. And I think, you know, for those of us working in government in various different parts, I think it's you know, good to kind of have this kind of exposure and be able to kind of mention this kind of work in the right forums, because it's not straightforward, and I think that your planning takes that into account. So I can't think of anything that's not covered, but let's continue to collaborate and push as far as we can, I guess.
Thanks for that, Sam. I think you in a cross-departmental role we'd really welcome your support there, because I think we've got local government well covered, but dealing with health, you could speak to a million different people, and likewise education, and to have somebody that cuts across these departments could be a big asset. Thank you.
No worries. We'll stay in touch, but hopefully there'll be some more kind of simplifications to things like governance. But we'll be in touch once we know those things are happening.
I think it looks great, and really like the wireframes on showing, you know, as to Emmanuel's question, you know, who's using it currently, what stage are they at, and all of that. That's really vital. Question on software suppliers and whether or not they can be featured on the website clearly, so that people can see, you know, whose software is compliant with the standard and who isn't. Has that been thought about?
It's definitely on our radar. It's actually one of the pieces that Gio will most likely be working on next week. So yeah, we know we'll have our community page, and we'll have some things featured on the website. The details are yet to be designed, but it's always good to hear like reiteration that that's an important area to focus on. Nanda, sorry, I just jumped in. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I've unmuted to say no, not really. But yeah, we're imagining that community is not just councils. It's shows the kind of full community. And then I guess it's just thinking around what is kind of acceptable in terms of passing on contact details for these different organizations. So we're starting to look into details of that.
Cool.
And in terms of vendors, those that we've engaged with so far are the ones who have engaged with the standard. I think it's a very interesting question of like the feedback and what we'll learn from those who haven't, or might even be, you know, not interested at this stage, that we still have to figure out kind of how to approach those people and like what might be good incentives to take part in the research as well. But yeah, it's sort of still to come, I would say. Yeah, well, if there aren't any more questions. Oh, another bit from Emmanuel. Yeah, and I think, Mike, you named a few standards that we're thinking about sort of figuring out our relation to, and that's part of the governance work, right? Mike, do you have anything to add for Emmanuel's comment?
Yeah. I mean, it's things like taxonomies and URI sets that are important, like I think the geography ones that are on data.gov.uk that are used for defining the polygons that define the areas in which you're eligible to use a service, that kind of thing. But taxonomies is the biggie. But then there are other standards, and we've particularly been talking to Open Active, And social prescribing tends to be a mixture of recommending people do physical things and people do things which help their broader health, which are not go down the gym and do Zumba. But we somehow need to bring those two standards together. So there's a conversation that's being had there. And then there are the obvious, standards regarding transport protocols and the like, which are pretty well indisputable. Aggregation, Gary is asking about aggregation here, and aggregation is a big issue, bringing together data from multiple sources and deduplicating, and there are some lessons to be learned elsewhere. Taxonomy conflict is one to do with cross-referencing between taxonomies, or getting people to reference multiple taxonomies, maybe a local one and a national one. And I've got a decades experience of people copying taxonomies and making their own versions rather than using them. So that there's work to be done there. And they're the main standards we need to address. I hope that answers the question.
Great. So feel free to jump in if you have more questions, but I'm just going to wrap us up. So just a little recap of ways that you can help. We need help with research. Please do reach out to us, both this Calendly link, but also if you want to talk about recruitment, like Emmanuel, I think we'll definitely be talking to you, as well as later today. Please email me and then also Olu. So I think I will share my email in the chat already, so that would be the best way to reach out to us. And yeah, I think, Harry, could you send the Calendly link again? Just so that people have it here in the chat. The other part would be case studies. So we talked about that and kind of looking for these different demographics. So we have been reaching out to some people, but if you have already adopted Open Referral UK and would like to share your story, reach out to us, and we're looking at splitting it into these demographics for now. Yeah, what's next for us? So we're really into this kind of continual build and iteration phase at the moment, which is the exciting part of the project. So it's really continuing to test and iterate on the website concepts each week, and add new designs that we'll add into the testing script each week. So some things that we're looking to develop further in the coming weeks on the design side are a more custom design for the case study page, because we know that that part's really important. Steps to adopt OR UK, and ways to get involved with the community, which would also include a page with more detail on what progress people are at with standard adoption. The website build itself, so you saw a great preview from Niall and then the rest of the team earlier. Of course, we'll add kind of Ananda's designs there, and especially looking forward to adding that visual polish. I think for me, that's when everything looks really real, even though it looks beautiful as it is as well. And Mike is sharing the governance document. We'll email you a whole packet of links later, and please take a look at that, add comments or reach out to him. And our next show and tell will be in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, the 15th of April at the same time. So yeah, lots to come, which is pretty exciting, and looking forward to hearing from all of you, because that's what makes our work better. And thank you for coming today. That's kind of us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, folks. Great stuff.
Thanks. Harry, can you make sure we can save the chat before we end the call? I'm trying to figure that one out right now.
It's okay. We get a transcript anyway when it ends.
Awesome. Cool. We can end it then, I guess.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.